You're listening to the Wordslinger Podcast, episode 96. You Must Write a Book with Honoree Quarter. This episode of the Wordslinger Podcast is brought to you by the audiobook edition of Quelo Medallion. You can find Quelo Medallion on Audible and use your Audible credit, or get Quelo Medallion for free when you go to audibletrial.com/wordslinger.
It's the Wordslinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger. I'm broadcasting today from a good friend has loaned me his studio. We're doing a little work together today. So I am at the offices of U Entertainment here in Houston, Texas. That's run and operated and created by my good friend Brad Yu. I want to shout out to him and thank him so much for allowing me to use his sound booth. And I may be using some things incorrectly here. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've operated a sound booth. As those of you listening know, I have been downsizing, getting ready to get into the RV full time. My little kit has been kind of shrunk down into something that I can carry very easily in like a shoulder bag. And right now I'm in front of his mic. I'm hearing sort of a little echo, so I may be doing some things wrong. But whatever. You guys you'll live with it, right? We'll be all right. So today I am actually, I've got sort of a show first. This is going to be cool. I am actually talking to my first repeat guest on the Wordslinger Podcast. I'm actually talking with Honoree Quarter. And you may remember her from a previous episode. And I believe that is episode 53, Prosperity for Writers with Honoree Quarter. And that was recorded quite a while back. That was October 16th, 2015. So more than a year ago. So that's pretty cool, though. Pretty cool that we're coming full circle at this time of year, too. So this time around, I'm talking to Honoree about her new book, You Must Write a Book. And those of you who've been listening for any length of time, and those of you who've known me for any length of time, you know that I'm a big proponent of writing a book, making sure that, especially as an entrepreneur, if you're an author, you cannot be an author unless you have written a book. That's just the rules. But as an entrepreneur, if you are a small business owner, no matter what level of business you're in, you want to make sure that you have a book. And the reason is there are multiple reasons, but tell you what, my suggestion is go pick up 30-Day Author. That's my book. And go pick up Honoree's book, You Must Write a Book. And you're going to get all the explanation you need out of those. But here's the gist. A book is the ultimate business card. A book establishes your authority. And a book gives you a means of reaching out to people that you would not have otherwise. It's a door opener. It's a conversation starter. So those are just 3 reasons right there. But we're going to get into some more of those in this episode of Wordslinger Podcast. Before we get into the interview, I just want to say thank you to everyone who is rating and reviewing the show on iTunes and Stitcher. I very much appreciate that. That's been growing. I haven't gotten one of my alerts yet, but I know from anecdotal evidence that people are out there talking about the show. So thank you so much for that. As I get reviews, I read them. So you'll hear these soon. And if you would like to help out the show, that helps a great deal. Go and rate and review the show, especially on iTunes. Go into iTunes and just search for Wordslinger Podcast or Kevin Tomlinson and look for Wordslinger Podcast. You'll find that. You can rate that. I'd love 5 stars would be awesome. 4 or 5 stars would be really great. And if you can write a nice review, I appreciate that too. If you hate the show, first of all, I'm very sorry. Whatever I can do to make up for it, just let me know. But for the most part, everyone who talks to me about the show, no one's ever very critical. People make suggestions, of course, and I welcome suggestions. The format of the show is fairly well established by this point, but you know me. I make little adjustments and changes. So you're always welcome to throw something my way. But one thing that I love, I get feedback all the time from people who just love the guests, which is the point. Right? Like I love the guests, but they love the fact that the show isn't glued to one, we'll say genre. it's, eclectic in the way that we talk to these folks coming on. The whole point of the show is to get the story behind the individual, get the story behind the story, a little background, a little behind the scenes, and people are really resonating with that. And so thank you so much for the kind words, for the encouragement. There are people out there posting regularly on Twitter how positive they feel the show is, and that just really warms my heart. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, because it is the goal of the show. So if you would like to leave a comment or send some feedback or just touch base, you can do that at wordslingerpodcast.com. Go and you can click on the contact button from there and send me an email if you like. There's also a little floating tab on the right-hand side of the screen that says send voicemail. It's got a little microphone on it, where you can record something from your computer or from your iPhone or Android device or anything, really. And you can also call me on your regular old phone. Pick up your cell phone. Do people still have landlines? You can pick up your landline phone and press these digits, 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673, where you can leave me a voicemail that I will play on air unless you tell me otherwise. And I love getting those too. So if you have questions, especially if it comes to writing and publishing, I'm very happy to answer those. Our unofficial sponsor, Drafted Digital, I'm the director of marketing there, in case you haven't heard. I brag about it all the time now, but we're all set up to help your every publishing need, really. So I will gladly direct you to the customer service department of that company if you need help with getting your ebook out there, getting it formatted, and getting it distributed. And we're always happy to help. We're all about building up authors. So if it's an author question, feel free to fling it my way. You may have heard, by the way, I said unofficial sponsor for Drafted Digital. They'll always be an unofficial sponsor just because they're so awesome and I enjoy working with them. But the official sponsor right now is me, the Coelho Medallion. And I don't know if you noticed, but I went ahead and signed up for an Audible affiliate account. So you can go to audibletrial.com/wordslinger. And if you use that, not only do I get a little kickback, but you do too. You can actually sign up and get your first listen for free. So definitely go do that. If you haven't joined Audible already, go check it out. It's well worth it. I've been an Audible subscriber, since before they were even owned by Amazon, I believe. I mean, I've been a subscriber since way back, and I love I get my little 2 credits a month, and I use those up and generally end up buying another credit or buying another book outright. So, big audiobook listener. I like to tell people sometimes that I attended automobile university, because for years when I would drive back and forth to work, audiobooks were my boon companion and my means of learning about marketing and about psychology and about all the things I was interested in, filling in any gaps I had in my education, because a master's degree doesn't get you everything. So if you're interested in learning or interested in just having stories fill your brain at all times, definitely check out Audible. So that's my plug, and I'm going to move on. So now let's get to this interview with Honoree Corder, which I know you're going to love. This is all about why you must write a book. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Now we have a first, and I'm actually really excited about it because this is somebody I have met in person a few times now. We've been connected for more than a year, almost 2 years now, I think, and I very much like her. And we've actually traded a few bits of writing for our various books, which has been cool. But I'm talking to Honoree Corder. This is the first time in Word Slinger history that I've actually brought a guest back on the show. So welcome back, Honoree.
Thank you. And this is only the first time I've written a 7-figure check. No, I'm kidding.
Not the first one I've cashed, though. So we're bringing Honoree on again today because this time around, the last time we talked about prosperity for writers, which I was a part of the initial, I don't know what you call that, the course that you put together for that. And that was very cool. And I got a lot out of that. As promised, I got a lot out of that. But today we're actually going to talk to Honoree about her new upcoming book. It may not be upcoming by the time you hear this episode, but her new upcoming book You must write a book, boost your brand, get more business, and become the go-to expert. And if anyone has listened to this show for any length of time, they know that I preach and promote the idea that every single person should have a book. So Honoree and I are on the exact same page with that. So welcome to the show again, Honoree.
I am delighted to be back. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I'm really excited about this book because you've pulled together some experts out in the field, people who know what it is to actually have a book and the value of it. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. I happen to be one of those people. You interviewed me for the book. I assume it still made it in there. Did you cut it out in favor of
No, you're
Guy
in
Kawasaki or something?
No, you're in there a couple of times.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. So there you go. Bonus Wordslinger addition to the book. So let's get into the guts of this, Honoree, because I know personally why everyone needs a book, but let's hear it straight from the expert here. Like, why does everyone need a book?
Well, I think there are several reasons. One of the most important in my mind is that everyone says that they're the best at something,
right,
or everyone is saying, I'm the person that you should hire, engage, trust. And a book trumps everything else. It trumps a business card, obviously, a brochure, a flyer, your website, testimonials, your law degree, right? I mean, it really just kind of says, bam, I'm the expert. I'm the person that you should hire. So while everybody's out running around saying I'm the best at, and here's my business card, you're like, oh yeah, I'm all out of business cards. Hair flip. Here's my book.
Right, right. The joke I've always made is I always refer to it as the ultimate business card, and I do always make the joke that it's a little harder to carry around 100 or so of these in your pocket, but well worth it if you can figure out how to do it.
Well, I actually talk about that in the book, about always having a book in your briefcase or your purse, a box of books in the trunk of your car, a box in your office. You always want to be carrying one around. And gosh, the worst thing that happens is that at just the right moment when you need a book, you don't have one, and you say, hey, can I grab your business card? I have something I want to send you. Right. And then the benefit of that is you didn't get to hand them your book. You get to mail them your book, and it's another touch. Right. In marketing terms, you and I both know, right, that there are a number of touches that someone has to have before they feel comfortable with, have name recognition. Right. So if you meet someone in person, that's touch number one. If you give them your book, that's great. But if you don't, sending them a book in the mail with a nice note is touch number two. So you've accomplished your, 7 touches in 30 days.
Yeah.
You've accomplished some of those touches. And so I think there's nothing wrong with that. You don't want to walk around carrying 5 books at a networking event. That would be silly. Right. So there is a time and a place for business cards. And yet I think it's always helpful to have a book, in your breast pocket, in your back pocket, in your bag, and pull it out at the opportune time.
Right. And, it's an old sort of networking trick to actually not have any business cards and always ask people for their business card. And I use it all the time because then the ball's in your court, which is exactly where I want that ball, so that I can go ahead and do something like email them the book or send them a physical copy or otherwise engage with them after the event. Because, people round file those business cards all the time.
Right, or they have a stack of business cards on their desk that they've been meaning to get to.
Right.
Eventually, it's the stages of trash, right? It's like first it's on your desk, and then it's on your credenza.
Right.
And then eventually you have that day when you're overwhelmed and you're cleaning and you just go, oh, screw it, I'm never going to do anything.
Right. Yeah, I haven't contacted this person in 2 years. I'm probably not going to do it. So you dump it. But yeah, on the flip side of that, though, we are hardwired to hold on to a book. So if you're handing that out in lieu of a business card, the chances are someone's going to keep that for a long time.
Yes, or they're going to pass it on to the right person, or they're going to read it and love it and hire you. There's so many great things about having a book. And for your listeners, we're book people, right? We understand it. You have to understand or think about the 99.9999 continue on for another 10 digits or so % of the population that does not have a book and thinks that someone who has written a book is a superhero.
Right.
And keep that in mind. When you hand someone a book, they just think you're amazing. I just took my daughter and her friend from school to SeaWorld, and we walked around in the rain for 6 hours. And she happened to notice on the way back that in the door were a couple of my books. And she was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize. She's like, does signing a book ever get old? She's like, just being an author is so cool. And all of a sudden I went from being Lexi's mom.
Right.
The bank mom to I was actually cool because I had written a book, and she was 16, and yet I get that reaction from all ages. Oh, it's just cool. You've written a book, and it's easy to become accustomed when you hang out with authors. We have authors, right? So we're like, oh, that's like so no big deal. But for the rest of the world, being an author is kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of amazing. People who actually don't even read are really impressed by you know, I mean, and I get that a lot. Like people ask, you know, everyone asks what you do, you know, especially when you're showing up at Starbucks in the middle of a weekday and you're wearing shorts and sandals or something, you know, people ask what you do, you know, and anytime you tell someone you're an author, there are lots of questions that get asked afterward. I'm never surprised by any of them, but there are a lot of them.
Right. Yes. And especially when I'm practicing my homeless look, but I have every Apple product known to God and man. They're like, there's a disconnect. She's probably not homeless with that computer. So maybe we should ask what she's doing. Right.
So, okay, then let's talk about the really meaty stuff here then, because the first question anyone's going to ask, if I tell an entrepreneur, you must have a book, they're going to say, how do I find the time to write a book? Or how do I get that done? How do I, develop that discipline quickly enough to do it? So what's some of the advice you would give for that?
Right. So you're asking several different questions, right?
That's true. Yeah.
If I'm going to write the book, which brings a catalog of options, and then if you definitely are writing the book, what are your options? So we can address both kind of lanes. The first one is, do I actually have to write the book? And if you're listening to the Wordslinger podcast, chances are you're a writer.
There's a slim chance of that, yes.
Yes, you have to write your own book. Okay. But if you're Joe Executive, you don't fancy yourself a writer. You might have always thought, boy, I'd like to write a book, or I should write a book, or wouldn't that be cool? You don't absolutely have to write your book. You have several options. You can do an outline, you can work with a ghostwriter, or you can delegate it totally to something like Book in a Box. Right. So there are options for you to, within 12 to 26 to 52 weeks time, having a book in your hot little hands with your name on the cover.
Right.
Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just as traditional publishers tend to be a little, how shall I say this, Kevin? Self-important or thinking that they are better than a self-published author.
Right.
It can be there are some self-published and traditional authors who think they are better than the person who delegates their book to a ghostwriter. And I basically say, who cares what anybody else thinks, right? You care what somebody else thinks right about the time they're putting food on your table.
Right. Yeah.
So if you want to write a book and you don't think that you have the time to write it, or you are concerned with the fact that you are dyslexic, like my husband would never write a book in a million years, and yet he will. You heard it here first. Or it just isn't interesting. The process isn't interesting to you. You can absolutely outsource getting a book written. Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of the first path. Like, do I have to do it, and when am I going to find the time? But then if you are going to do it and you're a busy professional, and, in the book I say, you're a college student, you're taking 21 credits, you're working 2 part-time jobs, and you're training for a 10K, right? You're like, when am I going to find time to write the book? And I actually have a book that's releasing right about the same time this book comes out, called The Nifty 15. It's part of the Prosperous Writers series of books, and it's writing your book in 15 minutes a day over the course of 100 days.
Okay.
What's interesting is people think that we're superheroes because we write books, when in fact, what we're doing is executing a daily writing habit.
Right.
And I was talking to one of the authors I was coaching yesterday, and he's finished his manuscript, and it's 26,000 words.
Wow. And
he said, okay, Honoree, now I have the bug.
Right.
So I do. And he said, can I get another book written in 6 months? And I said, well, let's just do the math. And I said, if you write 1,000 words a day, over the next 6 months, that's 180,000 words. Let's divide
Right.
26,000 into 80,000 words. Now, the math isn't going to be perfect because, as I know, there are several of my writing blocks that I'm spending working on editing and proofreading, like putting the finishing touches on my book. And in You Must Write a Book, there are, give or take, a zillion resources.
Right. Right.
Right? Like where I am giving people a checklist. And so we have to write the checklist. And there are different places where they can go to just kind of hack this writing the book thing.
Right.
That I wanted to provide. So I have to make sure that every single time I said, and I have something for you on this page, that it's actually written and on that page. So there is some execution time that isn't actually writing. And yet if you write 300 days a year and you write 1,000 words, it's 300,000 words.
Right.
That's 6 really big books and 12 nice sized books. Right. So it's figuring out when you're going to squeeze in. And so my strategy is 15 minutes a day. There's no one that can say to me, I don't have 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes of your lunch hour. It's getting to work 15 minutes early. It's writing during your 15-minute bus ride. I recommend, especially to moms, if you want to write your book, like get home from work 15 minutes late, swing by a Starbucks.
Yeah.
Crack open your iPad or your computer, set the timer for 15 minutes and just go to town.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And get it out. And you might not get 1,000 words in 15 minutes. You might only get 500 or 250. And yet every day, 100 words a day is 700 words a week. It's 3,000 words in a month. Yeah. All of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute. Okay, this is doable. So you take the bigger picture of the book is 30, or I think You Must Write a Book is 45,000 words. Mm-hmm. So you take that and you say, okay, well, I can write 1,000 words a day for 45 days, or I can write 1,000 words for 50 days and know that 5,000 of those words are going to be edited or cut out or whatever. And I'll have a book on the inside of 2 months. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And that, by the way, all of that sounds very, very familiar.
Yes, it does. I bet it does, actually. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's you and I both know that we're all singing from the same songbook. We all attend the church of write every day.
Right. Yeah, but a lot of people sort of discount that idea. It's a lot like money and sort of compound interest. You know, I mean, you start small. If you can only do 100 to 500 words a day, just do that until you get better at it, and then you will get better at it. And then suddenly you're writing 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, you know, and pretty soon you're on Facebook bragging to everybody, you know, humble bragging to everybody, you know, yeah, I hit 3,000 words today. I hit 5,000 yesterday, you know, and suddenly you're a hero. Right.
And no one stresses about writing an email. They're not like, oh my gosh, I have to write an email. It's 100 words. So it's just thinking about it differently in your mind. That's it. It's a daily writing habit. There's so much more, right? Writing the book is just the first fun part. There's so much more. Yes.
Yeah. That is the fun part. That's the part. I'd rather do that part than any of the rest of it. I'll get there somehow.
Yes. Well, that's when you get your team and you start delegating.
Right.
Then you're cat herding, and that's fun too.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's always going to be something. There's always extra work that you didn't really want or didn't count on. So okay. So this book, what I have to know why you decided this book needed to exist. Like, what was the reason behind it?
Well, because I'm constantly getting the question.
Right.
Oh my gosh, you wrote a book. What do I need to do to write a book? Where do I start? And I'm like, oh gosh, that's such a big question, right? What do I need to do first? Is such a big question, right? There's the avatar and the outline and the time, the write, and what are you going to talk about? And what problem are you solving? Or what solution are you presenting, right? There's so many things. And so I thought I've stopped doing business and executive coaching altogether. Mm-hmm. And I am only coaching people who want to have books. And the cost of my time is prohibitive to some people. And so I thought, you know what? I really would love to have something that was really meaty that I could hand someone and say, everything you need to know is in here.
Yeah.
There is no stone unturned. It is full of meat. It is not just you must write a book, but here's how you write your book. And here's where you publish it. And how do you make it look good? How do you make it look like it's more traditional than self-published, right? Self-published very well, trending toward traditionally, professionally published.
Right.
And what the heck do you do with it once you have it?
Yeah.
Or how do you use it to sell yourself? So all of that is in the book.
And I just recently read Tucker Max posted on LinkedIn a whole article about why you shouldn't write a book, and it was all the same stuff that you and I tell people, that, you know, if your expectations are, I'm writing this book so that it will become a bestseller and then I can retire and live off of the funds, you know, that's probably not the right motivation. I mean, fine, use it for motivation, but that's probably not going to be a realistic outlook for you. But there are a lot of reasons for people to write these things, but what are some of the expectations that you feel they should hold in mind when they're doing this? What's the purpose of the book?
Well, the purpose of the book is one of a few things. They either want to use the book for credibility purposes, okay, or they want to use the book as one of many income streams. So the book that could be repurposed into coaching, consulting, speaking, courses,
right, weekends,
that sort of thing. Or they want to use the book to sell their core product or service, or all of the above.
Right. Or all the above would work out really well for you if you have all those things spinning. A book is a nice addition to all that.
Book is a door opener. It's the lowest price piece of all of those. Not everybody can afford a $500 or $2,000 course, but they can afford a $10, $15, or $20 book.
Right.
And you, as the giver of the book, can afford the hard cost of a couple bucks of putting that book in someone's hands, that they may then turn around and hire you for hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending upon what you do. Right. But it's a door opener, because a book now, because of the digital age, can literally travel to anywhere on earth. It can literally end up in the hands of anyone, and it opens doors and creates conversations and relationships and opportunities that you will not have if you don't have a book.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it as well, is that you're able to use a book and leverage that to connect to people you wouldn't otherwise get to interact with. So your resources, your time is going to be finite, but your reach can be infinite.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a great way to think of it.
There's no hard stop on it either, unless you're writing something like What Color Is My Parachute 2016, right? Then there's an expiration date on it.
Yeah.
But I'm still selling my original book all these years later, and then I'm selling You Must Write a Book before I publish it. So there's no kind of hard stop. There's no, well, you better sell, or on this date, forget it, it's done. As a matter of fact, one of the great things about a book is that it lives and will make money for your estate 70 years after you die. So your great-grandchildren can be fat, rich, and happy too.
Excellent. Yeah, I like fat, rich, happy grandchildren. That's a lovely image. So you're here you are. You've got how many books do you have out right now? How many have published?
So this is 20. So in case someone, well, what does she know, right? Because some people will publish 2 books. They have 3 reviews each on Amazon. They're ranked 2 millionth, and they're like, I'm a publishing expert.
Right.
So this is 20, 21, Nifty 15 is 21, right? So there are several in the queue at the moment. And then I helped Hal Elrod with the Miracle Morning book series. And so by the time this episode goes live, we'll have 6. 6 this year. So 6, 7 that we've done together. So I'll have a total of 27 or 28 books that I have bred from from start to launch, just myself.
Yeah. Okay. That's a sizable number of books for just about any author. And I would say that's nice social proof that you are capable of talking about what you're talking about.
Maybe. I'm on my way.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting that we're having this conversation, because today I just finished up a blog post that by now should be well in live on the Draft to Digital blog about book descriptions for nonfiction books. And one of the things that I talk about is the 3 types of credibility and authority, and social proof and that sort of thing. That all of that's tied in there, and that's something that I think if you're struggling in your existing business, so you're a coach or you're a consultant, or something that requires greater authority and credibility, I would think that that's an ideal time for you to have a book. I would be surprised if anyone disagreed with that, really. But I'm often shocked by the number of people who don't actually have those books. Are you seeing a lot of those out there yourself? Because you're in that industry.
Well, that was the first thing that I did. Right. Yeah. When Mark Victor Hansen said, everybody's a coach and a speaker, you need a book. That that made intuitive sense to me. And I didn't let the epic fail, bad cover, no editing, blah, blah. My first book stopped me right from redoing that book and relaunching it. And therefore, and then capitalizing on my increasing my fees, charging more for my speeches, all of those sorts of things. I am surprised that, especially in the coaching and speaking industry, that more people don't publish a book. Although I see people who are writing them before they have a lot to say. Yeah. And they don't come from the place of like Napoleon Hill, who said, look, I'm not a Rockefeller, but I'm going to study Rockefellers and tell you what I learn. They pretend like they're posturing a little bit and saying, I am the expert in this, when in fact they're not. And they're just recycling what they've heard elsewhere. I would like to see more people spend time developing their own process and sharing that. Yeah.
Although I think that if you are starting from that place, at least you're doing something. So, but I 100% agree that we've already got enough takes on this same old information. I really love getting new perspectives, even if it's the same general story about, whatever it is, something to do with the industry or whatever. I like seeing new perspectives on it and hearing new analogies. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I think everyone should have a book, is because you do have a unique perspective and a story to tell.
Right. So don't present recycled information. Right. Present information that you heard and it's affected you and you've had your own experience based on that, and then tell me that story.
Tell that story. That's a great way to put it. I love that a lot, because that's what you do get a lot, especially from the and I'm sorry, I'm in the crowd, so I'm going to criticize them from the inside, but from the coaching and consulting crowd is you get a lot of rehashed, stuff they read in Napoleon Hill, or all the various 7 Habits and all the books that are famous and or infamous. They've just taken that material and maybe reworded it slightly, or they'll flat out quote it. And there's more to you than that.
Right. We want to hear what you have to say about it. We want to hear about the transformation you had from attending a Tony Robbins seminar or saving 10%, give away 10%. Like, let's hear what happened to you and why then I need to do that. Pass that on to me, because I don't know.
Right. And that's what, I wrote 30-Day Author with that exact idea in mind, because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to add much to the conversation as far as here's a groundbreaking new way to approach writing a book, because I'm telling people the exact same way that I write a book, that everyone I know writes a book, But the approach I took was to tell my story, to say, here's why I came to the conclusion that this was a good idea, or this is a good method, or, here's the things I've learned. And I actually want to go back and update that book now that I've got more of that experience under my belt. So there may be an update to that coming soon. Nobody hold me to that.
Come on.
I got enough other books to write without having to go back and rewrite one. So.
Well, you know what though, it'll come up.
It will, yeah, and it is definitely, there's a need for that though, and that's another aspect to today's publishing world that I truly admire and appreciate, is the ability to go back and add to that conversation that otherwise would have been finished. If you published a book 30, 40 years ago, the conversation ended at the end of the book, the last page. And you might do an update of that book 10 years down the road, but people who've already read it probably aren't going to pick it up,
I did that with my first book. I did the 10th anniversary edition of Tall Order, but I revised and expanded and updated it.
Yeah.
Anyone who had read it would find enough new content that it would be worth their time picking up.
Right.
But chances are the people who had read that book wouldn't be getting this one.
Right. Yeah. But you don't, in the traditional publishing world, you don't see that as often as people might think. I mean, you do see, if you're a mega hit, if there's a 7 Habits or something along those lines, then that's going to get an update, every 10, 20 years, and people will buy it. But if you're a relative unknown, chances are if you did get a publishing deal, they're not going to take the chance to, go back and update the manuscript with your newest findings or whatever, because there may not be a market for that. But as an indie author, you get the opportunity to do that, and the book just is there. It's just available, and a whole new generation can discover it.
Absolutely. And the great thing is, even if your book is 10 years or 40 years old, it's new to the person who hasn't read it yet.
Right. Well, I'm fully... One of the things that's interesting about this, by the way, Honoree, is, that I'm fully on board with this entire concept.
Yeah.
And it kind of floors me to run into people who are in the professional world who just aren't even considering doing this. And the argument that it's too difficult is the most astounding thing to me, because I will watch people do some of the most incredible things, work their butts off to become what they are. And yet the very concept of sitting down every day and writing to create this book, it just flat out terrifies them.
A book still feels big.
Yeah.
A book still feels big. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote this book.
Yeah.
Was because there's no better time to write and publish a book. There are cover artists who are hungry to design covers. There are editors hungry to get paid for editing. There are copywriters who would love to write the book description for your book.
Right.
Right. There are
some of whom are now very expensive.
Yeah. You're welcome. And there are layout. I use 3C's Books.
Yeah.
3csbooks.com for all the layout and formatting of my book. So it's easier now because you don't have to design your own cover and try to, get your own English degree or figure out what the rules of the who know what, right? That I don't even know what the editors do. They just send me my stuff back and it looks like a crime scene, and then I correct it and go on with my day. But Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Drafted Digital, right? I mean, all of those places that now will take your book and make it available in multiple countries.
Right.
And even you can get a foreign rights agent and translate it into foreign languages. There's never been a better, easier time, and it's getting better and easier every day.
Yeah.
So there's really no excuse, because it's not, oh, I can't get an agent. Oh, New York doesn't love me. Right. It's now, how do you turn the argument from it's not possible to I'm possible. It's possible for me to do it. And that's why I wrote this book, is because I didn't find all of these resources in one place. And so I decided to put them all in one place so that I could at least gift it to someone when they're asking me questions.
Yeah. And I think that's perfect. And that right there encapsulates the entire idea behind why you should do this. So we're unfortunately, we just bumped up against the time, but
how did that happen?
I don't know. It goes so freaking fast, especially when you and I get on the phone. I lose track of time. But I'm going to point everybody now. Check out the show notes. You can check out Honoree, of course, on her website, honoreecorder.com. You can get all this information in the show notes. So don't kill yourself trying to write anything down if you're driving. Just be safe. But of course, you'll find where you can follow her on Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. And by the time this releases, I'm hoping, it may come out before your release. I don't know, Honoree. I'm usually 3 or 4 weeks ahead of the game, but October is a little longer than normal, so we'll see. But we'll make sure that the show notes get updated with that link as soon as it's available.
It's coming out in October. So
excellent. Lots of good things happening in October. That's when Karen and I are getting on the road full time, too, in the RV.
Yay.
Very exciting. Honoree, by the way, is a fellow RVer, or will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. When's your RV going to make its appearance? You guys
we went to the factory, where there's only one bus company that makes full-size 45-foot custom buses from it's called Newell.
Okay.
And we went to visit them, and they gave us literally a 100-page document of all the things we have to choose, from the type of leather our couch is made from to what what are the shapes of the pillows and do we want tassels and stone and the flooring. And I mean, the floor plan, we have to pick out all of 100 pages worth of details. And then once we go back up there, it'll be 9 months from the date.
Okay.
So we're up there. We were just up there about 2 weeks ago. And so we're working through our checklist. Thankfully, my husband and I agree on everything. We are like the same person. So we the same style and the same colors and the same feel. I can't imagine doing this process with someone who liked the exact opposite or something different than I do. Every time he points to something, I'm like, yep, that's perfect. And that's very rare, I think. So I feel very blessed. But it's going to be probably 9 or 10 months before.
It's still close. That's still relatively close.
Oh gosh, yes. We're so excited. I mean, we went up there to kind of find out if they were the right company, and they are. And the team was great, and we got to tour a bunch of buses and really kind of see and meet all the people. There's like a whole team of people that work on the bus and the interior designers. It was just magical. So talk about it more later.
Good. All right. Well, okay. Well, then we're gonna go ahead and wrap up, and you and I can get on the road at some point. We'll meet up out there somewhere. But for everyone else, stick around. You'll get an update on all the wrap up and everything. And Honoree, thanks so much for being a part of the show.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Take care, everybody. It's always fun to talk to Honoree. And she and I talk frequently. We're in several groups together, on Facebook in particular, but we also, we have our special connection is through the Smarter Artist Summit, which I'm attending again in April. So if you're going to be there, I'm actually going to be there in more of an official capacity this time because Draft to Digital is we're going to have a presence there. So definitely check that out. You're going to dig it. If you're not going, I mean, you should consider it. And I don't want to make this a plug for Smarter Artist Summit, but it was a great conference and one that was worth going to, very much worth going to. And it was great to see Honoree there. So always good to talk to her. And this notion of you must write a book, it is absolutely essential in my view, in my professional opinion, that I think everyone should have a book, honestly. I'm trying to encourage Kara to write a book, my wife. She has a good story in her. She is, for better or worse, she is very much a planner and plotter. Well, not a plotter so much because she hasn't actually done this yet, but I mean, she's a planner and in some ways an over planner. And I guess that comes from, her career is as a project manager. So maybe that's where that comes from. But she's very good at it. It's just that, I'm too impatient to do it her way. And, I'm like, come on. You got the book. You got the idea. Let's get you in front of a keyboard. She'll get there. She'll make the leap, I think. I'm pretty confident. But if you are in business at all and you don't have a book, I really think you're lacking a very essential part of your marketing program. And I'm talking to you now as someone who utilizes books to make his living. Even if I weren't a fiction author, I would make sure I had a book because it's so easy to hand to someone, and people will round file a business card, usually within a couple of hours of receiving it. If they ever follow through at all, it's to jot down the information, maybe enter it into their iPhone or something, and send a quick email or whatever, and that's great. It's good to get that contact information out there, but it doesn't go any step beyond that. You hand someone a business card, and you're like everyone else. Here's my business card. This is my contact information. What do you think of my logo? Maybe you have a unique business card that gets some attention, but all you're really doing is handing them a way to contact you. What you're not doing is giving them a reason to contact you, and that's what a book is really good for. If you have something that establishes your authority on a topic, it makes you top of mind for at least a time if someone needs information on that topic, which can be very beneficial. But it also it allows you to convey the ideas and the sort of professional input you have on any given topic in a concise way. So, and people hold on to books. I mean, I've got dozens of books that I've moved around with me for years, some of which I've read and some of which I haven't. But, there's this part of me that's just loath to throw any of them out. I would never throw a book out. I would donate it or hand it to a friend or something along those lines, but I would never just, toss it in the garbage. So books have staying power. So it's a great way to advertise yourself. It's a great way to promote yourself as an authority on a topic and an expert. So you definitely should consider that. Pick up Honoree's book, You Must Write a Book. You want to read this. It's good. It's got, yours truly and a lot of other authorities on the topic of publishing in there. And, she just did a whole thing with Hal Elrod at Amazon. I mean, they did a thing with Amazon. Hal is the author of Miracle Morning. If you haven't read that book, that is genius. You should pick that up. They did a whole Q&A sponsored by Amazon, and I sat in on it. It was very cool. Very cool. And very informative. So if you ever had any doubts, I mean, she talks about this in the interview, but it's, it's never too late to start writing a book. It's never too early. She talks about someone, I think she says like 12 years old, contacting her about writing her book. Somebody in their 70s. I personally know people in these age ranges. I talk at a lot of schools, and so I get a lot of high school kids in particular, but even some younger kids who contact me afterward to tell me that they're writing their book. They want to write a story. I get contacted a lot by, retired professionals, ex-military, that sort of thing, who are writing their books. And it's not always about telling your story, by the way. Sometimes you want to write a book to sort of just give your point of view on a particular topic that might be helpful to someone. Might actually go as far as saving lives in some instances. I've known people who've written books and were credited with talking someone out of suicide or talking someone out of making some really dangerous or poor decisions. And you just never know what value you can add to the world. And that's another reason why I encourage people to do this, because every one of us has within us some piece of wisdom. And I kind of think it's our responsibility to share that wisdom with the world. It's that light within us that we can use to light the path for others. And I think we would be remiss. I think that it is our duty and responsibility to share that light within us. So that's my point. That's my stance. I've made it numerous times now. Whole episode was about it. So moving on from there, I think I want to again thank my good friend Brad Yu of Yu Entertainment here in Houston, Texas. If you're looking for anyone to handle and help with your professional production needs, please reach out to Brad. You can go to uentertainment.com. Where you can get in touch with him, or if you're having trouble tracking him down, just pop in on me and send me a note, and I will gladly send you his contact information. He's a great guy. He's got a very wonderful studio here in Houston. Great rates. He's my go-to guy for production work, honestly. So you're gonna want to touch base if you've got for any of your video needs. He also does some web work, web design, and that sort of thing. Brochures, anything media related, honestly. So whatever you need, reach out for Brad's help at Yu Entertainment. Go to uentertainment.com. That's my free plug for Brad. Thanks, Brad, for letting me use your studio. And then beyond that, just want to thank everybody for your support and your love as we move forward into our RV lifestyle. We're getting so many people just reaching out, and they're loving it. They're impressed by it, and they're happy with it. And I am grateful for the advice. I'm grateful for the support. Kara and I, at this point, we're at her parents' place at the moment. And in about maybe 2 weeks, we'll be in the RV full time. We're just kind of packing stuff in there. We went to the Renaissance Festival this past weekend and hung out for 3 days. We boondocked, just running on generator and whatever water was in our little storage tank, and just did fine, did great. We had Minnie with us. She did not like being left alone in the RV for any stretch of time, but we're kind of getting her acclimated to that. Like 2 to 3 hours at a time, she might have to be alone sometimes. It's just the way life works out. So we're getting her acclimated. She's a very needy little puppy. But she's very sweet. So, and a real blessing in our lives. So, anyway, I hope you're doing well. I hope everything is just coming up aces for you. I'm praying for all of you. I hope you're all having great blessings in your life. And I am going to let you get back to your regularly scheduled life. And please tune in next time. And if you would, give me a call. You can reach out to me on wordslingerpodcast.com, or you can call me at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. If you'd like to support the show financially, go to wordslingerpodcast.com. You can click on the Support the Wordslinger Podcast on Patreon button. It's right there in the top right corner of the website, and it's pretty much on it's on all the show notes. So you can chip in whatever you like each month. I appreciate people who support this broadcast financially. I mean, it's helpful, very helpful. So thank you so much for helping out. And otherwise, you can support me by going to iTunes and Stitcher and anywhere else you prefer to listen to the show and rating and ranking the show. Give it a review. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much. Tune in next week. We got another great interview lined up. Have a very safe weekend and or week ahead. Whatever's going on in your life, I hope it's wonderful for you. And I'll talk to you soon.
Word Slinger.